Albie Modise, Head of Communications Department of Environmental Affairs. Give us the latest. I'm sitting at 341 rhinos last year alone, a jump really. In 2005, we were looking at 36 rhinos being killed each year. Now, last year, we're sitting at 345. What is the latest that you have?
The latest is that South Africa has lost 388 rhinos since the beginning of the year. So the number has been increasing over the past months as well. But also what's interesting is the numbers of arrested poachers and would-be poachers has increased to about 203, which also indicates that there's been some success that's been recorded by the law enforcement agencies in terms of apprehending the poachers. Is
that enough? Is it corresponding to the crime that they're committing?
Look, it's not enough. It's not enough because when you look at the figures, you will find that most of the arrests are normally your operatives on the ground. You are not really tackling or getting hold of the ones who issue instructions, and normally that happens outside of South Africa. You would find that the syndicates that issue instructions are sitting somewhere outside of South Africa, but the ones who are on the ground, who are the ones moving into the parks, getting the horns from the parks and moving it out of the country. So those are the ones that we've been able to arrest. We would need to ensure that at least the arrest sees an increase in terms of the ones who issue instructions at the higher level outside of the country. Until we've dealt with that one, we would not be comfortable with our success. But I think we need to also applaud the work that's been done by law enforcement agencies as well.
Okay, we'll come back to the talks at government to government level, because we know that some of these poachers come from other countries. But I would like to bring in Dr. Shaw here now, Rhino Coordinator, Biodiversity Unit, World Wild Fund for Nature. Before we talk about your 5-point framework strategy that you'll be presenting today, maybe let's talk about what do you make of the figures that Mr. Modise has just outlined.
Obviously, we're extremely concerned about the rate of rhino poaching and the fact that it continues to increase year on year. But in line with Mr. Modise, we do applaud the law enforcement efforts and the agencies who are working so hard at a national level to increase the rate of arrests, and we look forward to supporting them in trying to, as Mr. Modise says, increase the level of our impact higher up the trade chain to really disrupt what's happening.
But how deep is this problem of rhino poaching in South Africa in particular?
It is a very big concern in South Africa, and what we're seeing here at the moment is unprecedented. The country, although rhino poaching, an earliest wave, hit East and Central Africa, what's happening nationally now is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this before.
All right, let me bring into the conversation also Dr. Mike Knight, Chairman, African Rhino Specialist Group at the International Union for Conservation of Nature. Dr. Knight, what do you make of the figures?
Look, I think as Dr. Shaw has already mentioned, they're alarming. And what you would have seen, that the rate of increase of poaching between 2009 and 2010 was increasing at about 170% per year. But because of a lot of the responses and management responses being put in place, that rate of poaching has declined year on year. To 2010 and 11 dropped to about 35%, and from the latter half of 2010-11, it dropped down to 22%. What we're seeing, yes, so every year the rate of poaching is increasing, but the rate is declining, and that is in response to increased management response, putting more men in the land, putting more investigations into place, increasing deterrent through sentences, and all those things. They're obviously having an impact, but what's driving this whole thing is obviously the huge demand for rhino horn in the Far East.
Have we been slow to react, though? I mean, you're saying 170% increase. Yes, it's dropping by 35%, and you're saying all these nice things that we need to do. But have we been slow in our reaction as the government, as the country, and all the stakeholders?
Well, if you compare our reactions in comparison to the syndicates by themselves are very quick to react to things and jump onto opportunities. State entities are slower. It takes a while for the organs to start moving. And I think that's a natural response. But I think to a large degree, a lot of the things and efforts being put in place are having an impact.
Talk us through a typical day in the rhino's life that is about to be poached. What happens? What do these syndicates do?
Well, obviously, they've got to find out where the rhinos are. Their ground intelligence is very good. They obviously rely upon information from local sources. Then they will move into that site, either under full moon or during the day, shoot the animal. It'll be with a high-powered rifle, take off the horn, and get out as quickly as they can. And one of the things with the current infrastructure and transport system, the animal can be poached, the horn removed, and it can get to Joburg Airport and out of the country within a day.
And I see here poachers saw off a darted rhino's horn, leaving the animal to bleed to death. Is that what you experience?
Animals that are mostly poached are normally killed. But in situations where they have left animals injured, it's a very tragic scene to see.
All right, Mr. Modise, assistance from local people, that will then include employees at the parks, that will include people who do patrolling and so on and so on. Do you see that as a problem?
Look, the assistance of the communities adjacent to the parks is very important, because conservation, much as at the political level, it's driven and managed by government. It's all of us working together to ensure that we conserve our heritage as a people, as a country, and as the world. So the work of conservation is not purely a government-only driven effort. It's effort that includes NGOs. It's efforts that includes private players and the other players, whether it's private-owned game farm owners or something like that. So we work closely with different communities. I mean, through agencies of ours like SA National Parks. We have initiatives that includes communities adjacent to parks, because when poachers move into communities, when they want to get a horn either from Kruger National Park or wherever the park might be, the very first people that they would move into is communities adjacent to the parks or people working on the parks. So it's pretty important that we have on our side people in the communities and people who work on the parks.
How are you dealing with those who assist poachers then, by giving them information as to where the rhinos are and so on?
That becomes an issue for the law enforcement agencies. There's been cases of individuals arrested within the SANParks system from Kruger National Park and some of the parks in Limpopo, and those particular individuals are now facing the full might of the law, and their cases are appearing before the magistrate. So in this particular instance, our brief is pretty clear. We are an environment department that's entrusted with conservation. And when individuals are involved in illicit activities that, among other things, incorporate the collaboration with people who steal our national treasure, we hand them over to the law enforcement agencies, and the law enforcement agencies are able to deal with these individuals the best way possible.
Where is the demand of rhino horns? Let's start with you, Dr. Shaw.
The evidence that we've gathered suggests that what we're seeing now, the spike in rhino poaching, is linked to a new demand for rhino horn and new markets and new uses. So historically, for thousands of years, rhino horn has formed part of traditional Chinese medicine, and it's been prescribed specifically to reduce fever in combination with other plants and herbs and animal products. What we're seeing now is something, again, unprecedented. Rhino horn is being used very widely in Vietnam. As the country becomes more wealthy, use of rhino horn has become almost a status symbol, an indication of someone's wealth and their power that they have access to this. It's being used as a general detoxification agent.
Let's go to Paddy in Moy River. Good morning to you, Paddy.
Good morning. I just wanted to ask, why can't we get the support of China and these countries where the horns are being taken to? Why can't we get their governments to ban them?
Maybe let's give Albie Modise here, Head of Communications, Department of Environmental Affairs, to answer that one. Talk us through the government-to-government discussions around this.
There's recognition of the fact that we need to work collaboratively with the governments of China, of Hong Kong, of Vietnam, Thailand, and other state parties as well. We've started those collaborations. Minister has also met with the Minister of Environment in Mozambique largely because of the cases involving Mozambican nationals that came before South African courts. We have a memorandum of understanding that's ready to be signed between the Minister of Environment in South Africa with her counterpart in Vietnam. Our hope is to sign this MOU in October during COP11 in India. This particular MOU addresses issues of conservation, addresses issues of law enforcement, technology transfer. It touches on the areas of information exchange that would largely assist police in terms of investigation either in Vietnam and or in South Africa. The collaboration with China as well would result in the signing of an addendum. There's an already existing MOU between South Africa and China on environment issues. But because we feel we need to elevate the poaching situation, we will be signing an additional agreement between South Africa and China that specifically addresses poaching of wildlife, not just only rhino. Rhino is but one of a number of products that are being stolen from South Africa. So our agreements with all of these countries are primarily geared towards ensuring that we deal with the whole bouquet of environmental wildlife crimes being carried out by external nationals in South Africa.